People of Earth, we come in peace.
Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor.
I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of central Iowa, welcome to Max World Live. Max World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Max World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Max World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
Afternoon, here we are on Wednesday, the 17th of February in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Tomorrow, Pastor Todd Stiles, who just returned from a 2-week trip over to the Nepal. So what is that Europe?
That's part of Asia, Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia,
yep.
Going to come over and talk about the persecution of Christians. He saw it firsthand.
Yeah, I've been following. I'm friends with him on Facebook. I've been seeing a lot of really cool pictures. God's doing some neat stuff over there, too, planting churches and things like that. I'm excited to hear from Pastor Todd Stiles.
Yeah, all right. That's going to be tomorrow. I want to introduce you to our special guest today. Her name is Crystal Wright. That's Wright. Crystal goes by the name Conservative Black Chick. And Crystal, I want to welcome you to the show. How are you?
I'm great, and I also have a new book out, Con Job, for how Democrats gave us crime, sanctuary cities, abortion, profiteering, and racial division.
Well, I watched an interview that you did on C-SPAN, and that was a great interview. I mean, I've seen your stuff here and there. You were on Simon Conway's show the other day here on one of our stations.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed listening to you, but that interview, you really got to talk a lot about your relationship with your mom and dad and how much those people meant to you. Give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. My parents, I still have the blessing of having them with me here in this world. They're still in Richmond. They grew up in segregated South in Richmond. And the interview you're talking about was with Brian Lamb, and I think it was in 2012. And Brian Lamb actually included me in a chapter in his book of newsmaker interviews that he'd done over the last 25 years. So I really enjoyed talking to him. And I just talked about how, my family and the values I was raised with really shaped me to what I came to know to be a Republican, because we were taught to take personal responsibility, treat others, with kindness. And also, if my parents never put limits on us, me and my 2 younger brothers. It was always, you can be whatever you want. You're not limited by the color of your skin or your gender. And we were very much raised in a household that was keenly aware of racism because my parents experienced it. But it never was something that set us back. And I told a friend just yesterday that, I don't wake up in the morning and lead with, oh, I'm a black woman, and, how am I aggrieved? Who can I wake up and blame today? Have I experienced racism? Do I still experience it? Sure. But the problem now, and I write about this in Con Job in my new book, is that the Democrats want black people to feel like every day that the reason why we can't get ahead is because of those mean old bad white people or those mean old bad Republicans. And everybody's a racist. And that's just not true. So when real racism surfaces now, it's kind of like Chicken Little, oh, the sky is falling, and we all ignore it, right?
Yeah, Crystal.
I don't even know what that would be, what it would look like today.
Crystal Wright is our guest. Her new book is Con Job. Make sure you pick up a copy. It's available on Amazon and many bookstores. Crystal, when you were sitting at home watching what was going on in Ferguson, Missouri, did your blood boil, and why?
Yes, my blood boiled when I watched Ferguson and the riots, and it also boiled in Baltimore last summer. I don't live too far. I live in D.C. It's like 45 minutes from Baltimore. And it really bothered me. Both incidents bothered me because in the name of what black people were saying, we're mad that white police officers killed these unarmed black teens. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to loot, riot, and tear down our own black neighborhood. You tell me how that makes sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense
How
at
does
all.
that make sense, right? So that's
Hey,
what got me angry.
Crystal,
Yeah.
this is Frank DeVers, the co-host here, and I appreciate people like you and Jason Riley. I was watching you one night on a Dr. Drew panel. I believe it was around the time of the Ferguson situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a lady named Scheherazade Ali.
Yeah, that was actually during Trayvon Martin.
Okay, Trayvon Martin. And you was on with Larry Elder, and Scheherazade totally dismissed you and disrespected you and basically said, quote, your house, and quote, I'm Field. And then went on to slam Larry Elder for being married to a white woman, which leads me to this question.
Mm-hmm.
How can these folks ever lift themselves into economic prosperity if they're still relitigating slavery in the Civil War amongst themselves?
Well, yes, that you're right. Scheherazade Ali, she said things that we can't repeat on your radio program that Dr. Drew allowed her to stay on the air. She called me an Oreo. She said I was a wannabe black chick or a wannabe white chick, maybe. I mean, it just went on. And I think as it was happening, because I do like Dr. Drew and I think he's a good man, he was kind of, I think his producers should have said, hold on, stop. We're not going to tolerate this. And you really speak to how black people, we tear each other down, and some of us, not me, are so lost in blaming. Like, Scheherazade Ali is so far removed from slavery. I don't even know how she could utter the word from her mouth. But it's easy. That's a great big cop-out, And Martin Luther King Jr. did not die. He didn't march and die for black Americans to have equality, so then we could then turn around and say, oh, well, it's slavery. King wanted equality. He wanted to have the same opportunity so his children could make a better life for themselves and compete, shoulder to shoulder with white America.
Crystal Wright is our guest. She's an author and speaker. Her new book, Con Job, is available Amazon.com and other bookstores. We've got, and this is this is a coincidence, Crystal, but it is what it is. We've got a breaking news story that the Iowa legislature, which is in session right now, has just approved the racial profiling bill. Now, this obviously will come out of subcommittee and then go to the larger House. Senate File 2173 is expected to be considered by the Iowa Senate Judiciary Committee, which will determine whether the measure shall remain on the books or not. It will recognize the proposal that sometimes police use racial profiling and that needs to stop.
Well, that's absolutely preposterous, and I write about this in Con Job, how all over the country now, all of a sudden, we're telling police officers they can no longer use APB, right? I think that's what it's called. So an APB is when they get a call through the police dispatch system, and the call says, describes the first thing they describe is the race of the suspect, the height, the appearance, the gender. So if we don't do that, how are cops going to know who to look for? Just because you feel offended that maybe a black person or a Hispanic person has committed a crime and the cop has to go out and find that person so that person doesn't harm other people, right? And when you go to the D.C. Police Department's Twitter feed, which I write about in my book, Con Job, guess what? The first thing it leads with, the D.C. Police Twitter feed leads with the race, first of all, of the suspect, and the gender and the height. And guess what? Guess what predominantly fills those tweets for the D.C. Police Department? Just take a wild guess.
Yeah.
Black and male.
Yeah.
And wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
I don't make it up. You can go look at it right now at D.C. Police, and you will see this. So if more black men are doing the killing in black-dominated cities like the District of Columbia, D.C., Baltimore, or wherever it is, why would you restrict the policing efforts of the police to find the bad guys and say, oh, we're just going to have an equal opportunity profile? Why would you look for a blonde-haired white male if they're not to make people feel good and warm and fuzzy? Because if we don't get to the root of the problem, what's causing all these young black men to commit the crimes, which is to break down the black family, then you're not going to solve anything. It's cosmetic, right?
Crystal Wright is our guest. Her new book, Con Job, is available now on Amazon and other bookstores. You earlier said that the person on the one interview called you an Oreo, and that's because, I'm assuming, I don't know, but that's because your mom was African American and your father was a white or Caucasian?
No, both my parents are black, but that's a disparaging name that blacks call other blacks if you speak the King's English, if you have a college degree, if you have white friends, or let's say if I was married to a white man, it's just to further. So what? I should go around speaking Ebonics. I should go around with my pants hanging off my butt. I should go around thugging and talking with a foul mouth and not have a job. Would that make me more black?
Now, we're about ready to run out of time, but before we do, would you tell, and I think you told this story about your mom, how she was sitting in the back of the bus?
Yes, I did. I told that. I've told it a couple times. So
share that with us, please.
My mother was about 12 or 13 years old. She was either going to her ballet class or from her ballet class in Richmond, Virginia. And this was during segregation. A white older man gets on the bus. My mom was already in the back of the bus. My mom was little. I mean, imagine a 12 or 13-year-old, right? And he says, you need to get up and move because I need to sit down. And she said, I'm already in the back of the bus. That's all my mother said. And she refused to get up. So the older white man looks at the bus driver, who's white, of course, and says, are you going to make this woman move? The bus driver looks, my mom said, the bus driver looked in the rearview mirror and then looked back down and kept driving.
Yeah, and I think... somebody made the comment, how much further do you want me to get in the back of the bus?
Right. That was my mom. She was like, she said, I'm already in the back of the bus. I'm not, what am I supposed to do? Get on the floor? I mean, lie on the floor so you can sit down?
Crystal, thanks for your time today. I know your time is valuable. We hope to have you back again. Her name is Crystal Wright, Wright. Her book is Con Job. She's the real deal, guys. Seriously. You need to look up this person. You need to read her book and find out what's going on. Crystal, God bless. We're coming back.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza, and it's got Graziano sausage.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for the opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, 21 minutes after the hour, we had to let Crystal go. She only had so much time, and I want to honor that time. Hopefully, she will come back. But I really would ask you to look her up and watch that interview she did with C-SPAN. You're going to really see some emotion when she talked about how her mother was the feisty one in the family and would fight for rights for her and her family. Her father was a dentist and was rather quiet, and so it was her mother that really taught her feistiness. And when Crystal talks about that, she gets choked up. And I there's nothing I hate than fake choke. And I can't tell you somebody who does it. I think I can always see it. You know,
I can tell you one. Starts with an H.
Humpty Dumpty?
Close. Hillary.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might be. Movies obviously are most of the time an emotion that an actor can bring up, and that's what makes him a good actor. I know that when I get choked up, I'm always embarrassed because I think somebody out there saying you're a wimp and you're not a good man and you got a backbone that's a slimy, stinky one because you can't say something emotional without crying like a baby. You know what my answer to that is? Guilty. I can't. I'm that way. You know, I find it interesting that when I'm in a room, I was in a Bible study this morning. And my buddy read that I am a Christian thing.
Yeah.
And he started to choke up a little bit.
Yeah.
I had to look down because if I kept looking at him, I was going to choke up. What is it about, Bob? What is that? You're the guy that understands all this stuff. What is it about me that when other people begin to cry, I cry too? Can you tell me biologically?
Empathetic. It's empathy that you have. You feel for others' grief or hurts, or it brings about something in your life that reminds, whatever they are going through reminds you of something that you went through.
It's called sympathy pains, like when your wife is having a baby and you start feeling pains because she's having pain, but you don't really feel it yourself. It's called sympathy pains.
I mean, I just, we weren't going to talk about this, but I do. You know, if all of a sudden Frank started telling me about something about him, well, like when your mom had her car accident and stuff, and you talked about it, you had a hard time not choking up, and I did too. I don't know. I guess I don't know.
I think it just
makes me what I am, I guess.
I think it just goes to show that we're more than just material beings, right? I think it goes to show that we're more than just flesh and bone and just have a mind, but that we actually have emotions and we have feelings and we've got a soul and we've got creativity and we can imagine and we can dream, and I think those things are good. I think those things are wonderful.
But that's against what society teaches men to be.
That's right, because society has gone the way of the devil, my friend, and when we boil humanity down to simply no different than a monkey, right? Right? If a human is like a monkey or any other animal that doesn't have a spirit, doesn't have an emotion, doesn't have an imagination, doesn't have the unique imago Dei, the image of God placed upon them.
Now there you go, using big Greek words.
That's not Greek. I don't think.
It is. Imago Dei is Greek.
Now can you see?
Greek? Yeah.
No.
Now can you see why we got a text yesterday that somebody said that their children demand that they keep the radio on to listen to us because we're so entertaining?
But I think our emotions, our true emotions are real evidence of something more, and I think they should be celebrated, not squandered or put down.
This was the breaking news that we read while Crystal Wright, and she calls herself the conservative black chick. This just came out at 3:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. A proposal to curb racial profiling by Iowa law enforcement officials was advanced today by the Iowa Senate subcommittee, with advocates saying the state can no longer afford to ignore what has become an explosive issue nationally. Senate File 2173 is expected to be considered tomorrow by the Iowa Senate Judiciary Committee, which will determine whether the measure will remain alive for further debate in the 2016 legislative session. Janet Peterson, Democrat from Des Moines, who chaired the 3-member panel that discussed the bill Wednesday, said she recognizes the proposal needs considerable work, but she encourages supporters to lobby legislatures to address racial profiling this year. Now, before I continue reading on, I would just like to say that underneath all of this from now that I'm going to read forward would be an asterisk, and next to it would be white guilt. You get it?
Yes.
White guilt.
You and Jimmy Carter.
We're not doing anything wrong. When we say there's a young black male, approximately 5'11", wearing a hoodie, that is not profiling. That is discernment. That is stating the case. Let me read on. The bill would standardize the collection of data regarding stops by Iowa law enforcement officers, provide for officer training, and create an Iowa Community Policy Advisory Board. The measure defines profiling as consideration of or a reliance on certain characteristics when initiating law enforcement activities, including race, color, religion, national origin, sex orientation, gender identity, English language proficiency, and physical or mental disability. Unquote.
Can I point out something that later on in the article, something was pointed out that I think Mac will get to, but there's a big difference between saying, a police officer saying over the radio, there's a young black man, description, height, weight, so on, who is fleeing the scene of a crime, blah, 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 blah. We need people to find him and cut him off or whatever they do. I'm not a cop. I don't talk cop language. That's one thing. If there was a crime committed and they described the person who committed the crime or that kind of thing, that's completely fine. And even this, in fact, they go on later to say, people part of the panel go on to say that kind of stuff is not racism. But there is a difference between that and saying over the radio, hey, there seems to be a group of black children congregating over here. We better go investigate that. Can you send some more police support over there? That then is what they're talking about. What they're saying is because of a particular race of people congregating in an area, as an example, we need to check that out. That is profiling people based upon their race. That's what that is, right? The people in that space have yet to commit a crime, but based on their ethnicity, there is a word sent out that we should go investigate that. That's profiling. That's what that is.
Do you remember the false NBC report during the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case? Where they edited a video and they made it sound like Zimmerman was the one that was saying he was black, when in fact it was the dispatcher asking him, well, what race is this person? We can't just go out and grab somebody off the street unless we know what they are, who they are.
Right. So
the dispatcher was asking him, Hispanic, black, white. Zimmerman responded, he's a black male with something with a hoodie on. But when they edited the video, they made it sound like Zimmerman was profiling him out, that he's black.
Right. And there's a key point that I want to point out, Frank, and I happen to agree with you, and that is that when you're asked, please describe the perpetrator, or please describe the person that we need to be aware of, those things are going to, male, female, color of their skin, what they're going to be wearing, height, weight. If they said they were describing me, big fat white guy running down the street, that kind of thing, those things are helpful and those things are completely fine. And even this isn't trying to stop that kind of language. What they're trying to stop, from the way I read the article, is they're trying to stop people from saying simply, because there are black folks, or because there are women, or because there are men, or because there are homosexuals, or because there are certain kinds of people or groups or whatever, categories of people doing a certain something in an area that is not illegal, that gives us the pretext or probable cause to go and investigate that. That's what they want to curtail. They want to have some training, some discussion, because it is a difficult issue, right? I'm not saying that it's a simple issue. I'm saying it is, in fact, a difficult issue. And we do need to be careful. Law enforcement does need to be careful.
Chris, Brad says he's sorry. He just does not see you running down the street. Anyway.
Hey, I'm doing better. I've been seeing my chiropractor. I'm feeling better, Brad. I'm getting more back strength. I'm feeling good. I'm resisting the temptation of Mac trying to give me a Butterfinger. I feel like pretty soon I'll be running down the street.
All right. So let's.
Thanks for your care, Brad.
Let's discuss what you just said. Thanks for your care. Is that what you said?
To Brad. He cares about me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the guy that you didn't give him the right prize, and he still cares about you. That's called grace. What you're talking about, Chris, is being politically correct.
No, it's not.
Okay. If I'm at Evelyn Davis Park, do you know where that is?
No.
Well,
yes.
If I'm at 9th and Crocker, you know where that is?
No. Doesn't matter. You're on a street corner.
Well, I'm not just on a street corner. I mean, I could be 131st and Hickman, and that's a lot different than 9th and Crocker.
Okay, but if you, J. Michael McCoy, who is a white old guy, is on that corner, and a freshman at Drake University who is a black student, who's an African-American person, is on that corner, is there a difference? Does it change?
No.
Okay, if it has to do with the corner that the person is standing on, then that's not racially related. If J. Michael McCoy is standing on that corner and the cops don't seem to care, but if an African-American student, a Drake student, is on that corner and the cops care, that's racial profiling. That's what that is. Even a police officer will tell you that we profiled that person based upon their race.
What if there's 15 young black males and it's 3 a.m. and they're in the middle of the hood?
And they live there, hanging out? They're having
3 a.m.
Sure.
15-year-olds.
They playing cornhole and drinking beers? What are they,
And you don't think it's okay for the police to say, I've got 15 young black males congregated around the park and it's 3 a.m. You think that's profiling? Why isn't that just information?
Here's the thing. If at 3 a.m. there were 50, number one, a park is closed at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right, but they're there anyway.
Right. So if we had 15 people in the park at 3 a.m. in the morning congregated, I think a police officer should take notice. The race, the color, the gender, any of those things are irrelevant at that point.
I've got
what's relevant to a police officer, what's relevant to a police officer is the fact that when the park is closed, there's a large amount of people congregated at the park, and that's fine. Now, if the police report they put the APB out and they say we have 15 African American or whatever, or it really shouldn't matter the race of the group of people, because the race doesn't matter.
But hold on.
In that particular situation, Mac, we have a large group of people in a park after hours. They should not be there. The police department should be able to go over there and disperse that crowd.
But hold on. Black lives matter.
Yes, they matter.
So why shouldn't we talk about black lives? Because they matter. The African-American community says black lives matter.
Right.
So aren't they honored when I say black lives? Black men, 15 black men, 15 black underage men. It's 3 a.m. and they're congregating where they're not supposed to be?
The point is, if the reason that's a problem is because they're black, now we're profiling. Now that's we have made a distinction because of their race. But in your specific scenario, and I'm only talking about your specific scenario, if you have 15 people congregated in a park after hours, it doesn't matter what race they are. That should be of concern to a police officer.
But that's not how you feel.
And maybe that's part of the problem.
We don't feel that. When we see 15 people of the same race congregating in a place, we avoid it. Because usually trouble can start.
And I agree that that's a problem.
All right, let's take a break. We're coming back. Hey, it's your voice I want to hear. Speak up. 244-0077. Thanks for listening to The Truth.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you can just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 22 minutes before 5 o'clock, 4:38. Hank, the Bible Answer Man's coming up. 1-888-ASK-HANK. Tomorrow, Pastor Todd Stiles back from Southeast Asia talking about, just the incredible amount of bad stuff that's happening to human beings over there. And obviously some good stuff because he was on a missions trip. So
yeah,
he was safe. All right, 244-0077. Those are the studio lines if you want to talk on the radio with us. If you want to text, we've got some texts we want to share with you. That's 809-0993. That's the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line. And you've got some chats and some texts for us, Robert.
I got a chat here. As a listener, what's the purpose of this show?
Is that a question? What's the purpose of it? Whatever you want it to be. Right now we're talking about the fact that the Iowa State Legislature has just put, this is funnel week. So this is the week that the bills have to get through. If they don't get through this week, then they're off the table until next legislative season a year from now. And so one of the things that the legislative put through was a racial profiling bill and how the unbelievable additional restraints are going to be put on our already heavily taxed, and I mean emotional and physically, not monetarily taxed, police departments, state patrol, fire departments, all because of white guilt. Trying to be publicly, politically correct. If we see a group of people standing in a group, we're not allowed to say what race they are because that's called profiling. Now, I think that's called discernment. I don't know. Hey, I've got 15 people standing in the middle of the street here. It's 3 a.m. and they all look geriatric. They look like they're grandmas with little coasters in front of them, walkers. Well, I'd want the police to tell me that.
Well, but we have a text to address that, and it says, if they're breaking the law, doesn't matter what color they are, or I'll just add, or if they're old people.
So we should sit back and wait for them to break the law.
Don't ask me. It's a text.
Oh, that's just a text. Okay. Well, maybe that person could call in and answer, because I thought police were supposed to stop crime before it happens. And I don't know, but I've seen Baltimore. I've seen Ferguson, Missouri. I saw Rodney King. I know what happens when a large group of same racially people are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and at the same time, buildings and automobiles are being burnt. I mean, you did see Ferguson, right? Okay.
Couple of things here. One, that is the article, which is on the Des Moines Register website. That's how I found it. They tweeted it out actually just a little bit ago. On this issue and understanding the issue to some degree, David Walker, retired dean of Drake University Law School, who is the co-chair of the NAACP's Legal Redress Committee, said that law enforcement, this is quote in the article, law enforcement officers should be allowed to make stops when they have specific descriptions of suspects and when specific unlawful conduct occurs. Quote, this is not racial profiling. So when a crime has been committed, if it was done by the person, whoever did it, or they suspect they're doing it, or they're pursuing somebody in a crime, describing their gender, their race, descriptions about their height, weight, so forth. Those kind of things are completely allowed. This bill that's being proposed here would not change that. The idea here is to, I think, make police officers aware of their own personal prejudices. Because I think that's what we need to address. I've got personal prejudices, right? And I think police officers are humans just like I am, and they have prejudices as well. And those prejudices may be grounded upon experience, or they may be grounded upon rhetoric, but they're still there. And I think those are things that I think it's one of the many things that makes a police officer's job so difficult. Let me give you the example I've shared before. I was in the Twin Cities considered going to a Starbucks in the Twin Cities area, but there were the patio was filled with clearly Muslim men. And I had the thought, I guess I don't want coffee that bad. And I remember having that experience, and I remember thinking, okay, wait a minute. Why would I feel that way? That's me I'm profiling them. I'm saying these guys are Muslims. I've decided that, and therefore I feel a threat to them. If I was a police officer, that's something that I know as a police officer. I've got to have a gut check on that, because I need to be careful that I don't use unnecessary force when approaching certain people.
What's the difference between? This is an honest question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between profiling and discernment? Because God teaches me to discern. I don't know about profiling. I don't even know if that word's in the Bible.
Right.
But I know the word discernment is.
Well, I don't know that I've got the answer for you, but I would say this, that let's use me as the example again. Okay, the Starbucks patio filled with many Muslim men in the patio.
In the broad daylight.
In the middle of the day. This is the middle of the afternoon, okay? In the Twin Cities. It's cold outside, and I wanted a cup of coffee. I should have no reason to be nervous to walk through that. This, by the way, you had to go through the patio to get into this particular Starbucks, because it was mostly a drive-through for whatever that worth. But I would have had to walk through this crowd, and that made me uneasy. And here's the thing: police officers already are really on edge every time they have to pull someone over, every time they have to approach a citizen that they think may be involved in some difficult activity. That police officer is under an incredible amount of stress no matter what. If that stress level is heightened because of the race, ethnicity, or their feelings, their nervousness, as Mac wants to say, their discernment, they may be more on edge and may use more force than would be necessary in that situation, simply because their heart rate is accelerated, their adrenal glands has been activated, and they are a little bit more on edge.
Did you watch a lot of the Ferguson coverage? I understand that 67 to 70% of the community is black. They were saying that 85% of the traffic stops were black. Charles Barkley said himself, most of these 911 calls are coming from the community. he himself said, we don't want our communities being the Wild Wild West. So he said, we don't want to alienate the police because we need the police to protect us in the black communities.
That's right. That's right. I think police officers are good, and I think that we have to be careful. Look, I'm not saying that I'm for this bill at all. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that we got a text that said, what's the point of this show? And I hope that my contribution to this show is to get each one of us to think a little bit longer, a little bit deeper, a little bit further about these issues than just making some sort of a knee-jerk reaction anytime we read some of these things in the news or we hear them talked about on radio, but that we actually take a minute to consider that. And we must care for, love, and respect our police officers, not because they're infallible, not because they're perfect, but because they're human beings just like me, and they make mistakes just like I would. They need the love and support that I need to do my job. They need love and support to do their job so they don't make mistakes and hurt people unnecessarily.
I think this anti-profiling bill is anti-Christian because it does not allow us to use a gift that God gave us to discern, to measure what's going on in front of us, to use the knowledge and wisdom that we have, and to make the best possible calculated determination that we can. That's discernment. And what you did with those Muslim people was discernment. It wasn't profiling.
Absolutely.
It wasn't racial.
There was no threat of violence. There was no reason that they would have hurt me. If I walked through that crowd and got a coffee, man, those guys they could care less if some white dude walked through the crowd.
Why didn't you go?
Because of the rhetoric that I experience, because of the language that I'm hearing all the time about how scary and terrible Muslims are, I was afraid. That's what my point is. I had, what did you call it, Bob? Fear is. It was the acronym. What was it?
False evidence appearing real.
False evidence appearing real. I had the false evidence that these guys, as Muslims, had to hurt me, and it appeared real to me.
You're not going to allow your police department to have the same fear you have.
No, our police officers are very smart, and they should use their discernment. They should use their God-given ability to discern a situation. But what we're talking about is all of us understanding that we need to be careful when the rhetoric around us, and police officers experience the same rhetoric that everybody else does, that makes us more nervous to do our jobs.
Have you seen this phenomenon on the internet of being sucker punched in the temple?
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios.
.450, 10 before the top of the hour here on a Wednesday. 17th day of February in the Lord's year 2016. Discernment. It's a gift that Jesus Christ gives us through the Holy Spirit and his Father, our Father God, within the Christian format. Obviously, if this was a regular talk show, I would have said Jesus Christ already too much and would be told that this is a secular radio station. Quit talking about discernment and the Holy Spirit and the Father God and his Son, Jesus Christ. Isn't it great that this is a talk radio program that we can say Jesus' name as much as we want?
We can, yeah.
You know, I fill in sometime on other radio stations. And because they know I'm kind of a Jesus freak with an attitude, because I do kind of wear it on my sleeves.
Yeah.
They ask me to limit the amount of times I say that. And you know what? I completely understand. I completely understand. If I go on a secular radio station and start laying out my love for Jesus over and over and over, their ratings are going to go down. Because the people that listen to that kind of radio station don't want to hear about Jesus. But on Christian radio, one of the nice things is you can talk about news, you can talk about programs, you can talk about everyday life. Because last time I looked, you and I lived an everyday life. You got a wife.
I do.
You live in a secular community.
That's right.
You pay taxes.
I do.
Yeah. So I just think it's awesome that a radio station on the dial in Des Moines, Iowa, can talk about social profiling and racial profiling and what's going on with a dead Supreme Court justice and was he murdered and does the Des Moines Register lie, cheat, and steal when they write articles about conservatives, but when it comes to liberal progressive hacks, they can write whatever they want, and we can still say, but we love them in Jesus' name, and we do the Christian thing.
Before the break, I started to mention that there's this phenomenon going around on the internet of being sucker punched on the street. The culprits are generally black. Most of them they show anyway. And an innocent bystander, male, female, young, old, etc., is walking down the street and they get cold-cocked from the back, from behind in the temple, and they get knocked out. And then when they're laid out on the street, somebody stands over them and saying, "You got knocked the blank out." If you're walking down the street and there's 15 black youth from the age of 18 to 25 on one side of the street, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, are you going to walk over on that side of the street just for giggles? Or is the natural apprehension and anxiety of danger that God gives us to keep us from getting into danger, is that going to kick in and you're going to stay on your side of the street?
Well, that I think is the heart of the issue right here, Frank. And the heart of the issue here is that scenario that you just painted says that black folks, that African American folks, whatever the right thing to say is, right? Okay, so black folks between the age of 18 to 25 in groups are dangerous. That was what your question presupposes, that a group of 18 to 25-year-old black people are dangerous.
I wouldn't want to walk on the same side of the street with 15, 18 to 25-year-old white guys at 3 o'clock in the morning, because
nothing good happens.
Nothing good happens at that time of night, exactly. And generally, they're not out looking for good.
So the question, though, was not... Here's my point, though. The question that you asked was not, if you're walking down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning and there are 15 people on one side of the street and there's nobody on the other side of the street, are you going to walk towards the ongoing group of 15 people, or are you going to walk on the other side of the street where there are no people? That wasn't the question you asked. The question that you asked identified the group of 15 people as 18 to 25-year-old black people. And what that does is that profiles that group and says that those people are dangerous simply because they're black and they're in a particular age range. The question of, if I'm walking down the street and there's 15 people on this side of the street and there's nobody on this side of the street, if it's simply an issue of number of people, time of day, crowds, that kind of thing, it's a different discussion. But the question that you asked presupposes that black people are dangerous, and that's the kind of racial profiling that I think bills like this want to address, that our police... Look, if you feel that way, Frank, feel that way, okay? But if a police officer feels that way, I think that puts those young people at risk.
Go ahead, Frank.
Well, Juan Williams got canned from NPR for a feeling something similar to what you had. He said that he gets feeling a little uncomfortable with men in turbans on an airplane dressed in Muslim attire. And he's a liberal. He got canned from NPR, and Fox News picked him up. So I'm just saying, as human beings, we sense danger, and that's a natural God-given thing that to protect us from.
Now, Chris, before we run out of time, here's the sad thing, because you're right. You're completely right. Here's the sad thing. This profiling bill that the state of Iowa is looking at, this racial profiling bill, does it have any power over you? No. Does it have any power over Frank?
No.
Does it have any power over me?
No.
Who does it have power over?
The police officers in the state.
So now we have police officers who are already under an incredible amount of stress and anxiety. I can't imagine being a police officer. I've got friends who are police officers. I got a good buddy of mine who's a police officer. He just went from uniform patrol. In 2015, he came off uniform patrol after how many years and went to plain clothes.
Right.
He said, you can't even believe the difference in feeling that I have when I walk into a restaurant. Because he and Al, we're in the same Bible study on Wednesdays.
Good guy.
Yeah. And he said, you can't believe the difference. Now, this bill just puts more pressure on people who are doing the very best they can to try to deal with an overall community that knows bad news when they see it. For the most part. Not every time, but for the most part. Why should we do that to those poor police officers? All in the name of being politically correct.
I think the reason is to save lives, so that we don't have accidents. But I agree with you 100%, Mac. I think you're absolutely right. And I love that we're a Christian radio station and we can say this with all sincerity. Our listeners love Jesus. And I encourage you, as Mac, you're going to say, I encourage all of us to pray for our police officers here in the great state of Iowa. They need our support.
Yeah, in fact, let's do that. Father God, we thank you for this radio station and the ability to do what we do, the power to do what we do, the humility to do what we do. God, help us to be teachable. Also protect our men and women in blue and in the State Patrol, and just know that we love them. Put your extra arms of protection and surround those men and women as they do the best they can to protect and serve for us. Amen. All right, tomorrow, Pastor Todd Stiles, the persecution of Christians in Southeast Asia and in that area. That's going to be a powerful show because Todd doesn't pull any punches. And then we continue on through the end of the week with lots of great guests, and we appreciate it. If you're a new listener, thanks for listening. You may not like everything you hear here, but we thank you for telling us when you do like it, but most importantly, when you don't. Yeah, I like it when you tell me my cheeseburgers are good, but I need to hear when they're bad. Until we meet again, my mouth, your ears, our hearts in Christ. Remember that if you've got someone you need to forgive, would you please forgive them tonight? Because God teaches us, Jesus teaches us from the Mount. He said, forgive as you will be forgiven. See you, church.